So I'm going to invite all of you to be on your backs. I'm going to share a little bit of some reading here first. I'll let you guys take a moment to get settled. And at the beginning of practice, it's always nice to set ourselves up with our knees bent. It's a little bit easier on our backs rather than being in a shavasana to begin with. Just so it's a very relaxed pose, but yet you're still a little bit more alert, active a bit. And so if we bend the knees, then we can take our feet just a little bit wider than our hips, if this is comfortable for you, and then let the knees fall together. And to begin with, I'm going to invite you to place your hands, your palms on your belly, and take a few moments to follow your breath in and out of the belly. Relaxing it and allowing it to move with the breath. And so mindful breathing helps to bring us into the moment and become a little more present to the practice and this gift you've given yourself, time for self-care. And we want to do the best we can in discovering who it is we're caring for this morning, right? Because we're changing all the time, mentally and emotionally and physically in ourselves. And so recognizing who's here on the mat and honoring that person, beginning with the physical body, a little scan from maybe head to toe. There may have been some areas that have already been talking to you this morning that you've been pushing aside as you kind of got through some of the morning routine or chores. And now you have an opportunity to acknowledge them. So any areas that maybe feel a little tense or tight, sore, that need extra care. Take note of your breath and energy body. Noticing the quality of your breath, whether one nostril is congested. Maybe you're beginning to deepen the breath and notice it's been a while since you've done so. Unless we consciously think about deepening our breath, it tends to be fairly shallow through most of our days. And so we can breathe deeply with the intention of bringing in the energy we wish to engage with. And the exhale can have the intention of letting go, surrendering or releasing that which no longer serves us. Check in with your mental and emotional body. Are there thoughts that continue to take you away from the moment? Are there emotions that are right there at the surface that you're experiencing today? And we can usually connect into these states, this mental and emotional state, when we're in stillness. When we're running around busy, that's a distraction. So find a loving acceptance of whatever is showing up for you. And in this stillness, in this listening, we connect into our inner wisdom. Intuitiveness or intuition, and that arises from the heart and the heart chakra in the center of the chest, our energetic heart, anahata. And so what I'd like to do as you rest here for a few more moments with your breath, just find a nice even flow to the breath, maybe at about an 85% of capacity. And imagine your heart breathing. Your heart bringing in and the air, the prana, that life force, and letting it go. Anything you're ready to release, taking in and letting go, breathing from the heart. And the organs and places of the body that are associated with anahata chakra are the heart, obviously in the circulatory system, our lungs, our shoulders and arms, ribs and breasts, diaphragm, and the thymus. The emotional and mental states that reside in this particular chakra are around love and hatred, resentment and bitterness, grief and anger, self-centeredness, forgiveness and compassion, hope and trust, as well as loneliness. The physical areas that are affected, or things that can create a dysfunction if the heart chakra isn't healthy, can be congestive heart failure, heart attacks, asthma and allergies, lung cancer, breast cancer, bronchial pneumonia, upper back and shoulders. And so just taking that in for a moment, what is it that you notice around what I shared there in the heart chakra? The energy here is emotional in nature and helps to propel our emotional development. And this chakra embodies the spiritual lesson that teaches us how to act out of love and compassion. As we move through this practice today, our intention will be to move from that heart center, and we'll be coming into some gentle back bending. And in that back bending, we will also feel the heart open and lift. Right? So find that relationship between what goes on in the low back and what happens in the heart. We'll explore that today together. Take a few more breaths here, feeling the breath or the heart breathing. Place one palm on top of the other at the heart. And take a few breaths into the heart. Allow the hands, feel the hands move or rise. A sense of expansion and openness and compassion towards yourself, towards the practice. And then we can bring that openness into the rest of our day at the completion of practice. For now, allow this practice to be for you. Let's begin some movement together simply by drawing the knees into the chest, hugging in. Feel that stretch through the low back. We're going to just take a little time for low back cares before we move into any back bending. And I will show many, many modifications to keep it as gentle as you need to. So let's find our way into Apanasana, inhaling, arms lengths away, the hands are on the knees. Exhale, pull them in. Inhale, arm lengths away, and exhale towards you. And then we'll take this into knee circles, so the knees stay together as you circle them around in one direction. And then circling the other way. And let's place our feet into the floor. Take the mat as wide as your mat. Open the arms wide from the shoulders, palms up. Heart is open, shoulders softly drop back. And find our way into our double knee drop, exhaling the knees to one side. Inhale, open the legs as wide as they will allow. And then exhale, release the knees to the other side. Breathing from the heart. Taking care of our sacrum, our low back, hips, IT band. So loosening up the lower half of the body in preparation. If you'd like to now move your head in the opposite direction of the knees. So we take a very, very gentle, mild twist up through the whole spine. And if you prefer, you can keep the gaze straight up to the ceiling. And then when you've got it equally side to side, bring the knees back to center. Arms by your side, palms down. We'll bring our feet parallel to one another and the heels about 4 inches from the buttocks. Draw the shoulders underneath you, opening the heart. Press the palms and the full length of your arm into the floor so their arms are very active. And then with your breath, slowly peel the spine up off the floor, lifting the hips. Head stays neutral. And then exhale, lower back down. And several more times at your own pace. Inhaling, reach up. And lift as high as it's comfortable for you. And just notice if you can get to the back of the heart. So the heart's lifting up off the floor. And then exhale and lower back down. If that's too much, please find your position here. Stay safe. And then the next time you inhale, hips up, let's go single arm lift. So hips up, right arm reaches overhead. And then exhale, everything together, hips and the arm. And then the same thing on the left side. Just alternating left and right. Since the heart chakra, the energy of the heart chakra also resides in the arms and the shoulders, we'll work a little bit there as well. When you've gone equally to both sides, find neutral, just our starting position. Take a few breaths here. Just start to tap into the energy body, right? We're notice the subtle shifts that occur as we begin our practice. We're going to interlace our hands in front of us and bring them overhead. And so we just feel a different stretch when we find that, when we interlace the hands. And then turn the palms away from you and really reach. Let the shoulders come into the ears. Palms reaching away from you. Feel that stretch through the shoulders, the tricep, maybe through the side body. Just take a couple of deep breaths here. We also experience a nice stretch in the wrists. And then allow, or just keep the palms away from you, but start to lift the arms up towards the ceiling. So the palms are towards the ceiling, and slowly lower them back down. And as you do so, continue to press away, or press the palms up and away, lengthening those arms. And then release that. Open the palms up to the ceiling, arms along the floor somewhere, wherever they naturally fall, and just feel the energy through the arms. Good. So you can bring your, if you need to, you can bring your fingertips to your hip bones. And so if you have a really good understanding and awareness of pelvic tilts, you don't have to worry about this, but I want to really touch on the basics and understanding some terminology. And we've done this many times, so I'm going to do it again. If you tuck your tailbone under, right, we can feel the low back flatten into the floor. That's a posterior tilt. Posterior is the back part of the body, and we're taking the top part of your pelvis and tipping it back towards the back body. We reverse that. Now we're taking the top of the pelvis forward, anterior tilt. That's the front of the body. So just play with that a little bit. Posterior tilt, we round the low back. Anterior tilt, think of it as creating a little bit of a back bend. Right? Exhale, tuck under, posterior, inhale, anterior. So just really becoming familiar with that movement in your body, because it's the exact same thing no matter whether we're standing or if we're on hands and knees, if we're seated or if we're prone, right? Lying on the belly. So now let's go ahead and roll to hands and knees. And then we play with it here. So placing the palms at the front of your mat. Knees directly underneath the hips. All right, engage the core. So find that engagement. That really helps to support the back as it goes through the motion here. And we tuck the tail under in cat pose. We're posterior tilting. Reverse that, creating a little of a back bend. Lift the head, and we soften the heart towards the earth, right? So we're reversing the curvature in the thoracic spine. That's an anterior tilt. Posterior tilt, exhale. Anterior tilt, inhale. We can really feel the movement in the lower half of the back, or it tends to be where we can most easily bring our attention. So I'm going to invite you to also rest your attention at the heart chakra, Anahata, which is not only at the front of the body, but the back. So we're looking at approximately the bra line, or maybe slightly higher than that. Right? So just feel that area. Just notice whatever it is you notice. Keeping that forefront of the mind as far as the heart chakra goes, Exhale, draw back into a child's pose. And then the heart lifts us back up on an inhale. Hands and knees. Now the spine staying fairly neutral as we come up. And then notice that we move into a bit of a posterior tilt as we draw back. And then we can play with that here. So from hands and knees, take the cat pose, posteriorly tip the pelvis, and then draw back into a child's pose. Just feel that. And then inhale up to neutral, meaning we have gentle curves in our spine. It's not a flat back. From here, find the anterior tip of the pelvis. So you're coming into a back bend and draw back from there into child's pose. Feel the lengthening that occurs when we do that. Because child's pose is a bit of a posterior tilt. And so if we come into the anterior tilt first and then draw back, we lengthen that out. Okay, so kind of move back and forth here. We'll come into our Chakravakasana and just play with that a little bit. Feel that in your body and notice the difference when you lead with a posterior tilt into a posterior tilt versus leading with an anterior tilt and come into the posterior. The next time you find your way to hands and knees, pause. We'll come into thread the needle here. Let's do a little stretch to the upper back and shoulders. So keeping the left palm in the floor, we're going to draw the right arm underneath. Actually, thread the needle. So we're threading the needle through the arm, coming onto that right shoulder if possible, and the head's resting on the floor. If it can't make it to the floor, you may want to put a block there, or if you have a fascia ball, you can rest your head on the fascia ball. My left fingertips have rotated to face my forehead, so my left elbow is straight up to the ceiling. Take a few deep breaths here in through that twist in the thoracic spine. We want to rest the head more towards the scalp or towards the edge of your head, not your cheekbone, right? If we rest all the way to the cheek, we're crunching our cervical spine, our neck. So if we keep the weight towards the top edge of the head, keeps the neck neutral. And then come out of that, hands and knees, back to hands and knees. Take a little cat-cow. Draw back into child's pose. Just take one deep breath into the back body. Exhale, release it. And then come back up to hands and knees and thread the needle on the other side. So the left arm goes through underneath the right. We're coming onto the left shoulder. Rest towards the top edge of the head. Right fingertips face the forehead. And take a few deep breaths here. Find your way back to hands and knees. Again, a little cat-cow possibly. Feel good. Draw back into a child's pose. Take one deep breath here. Inhale, come up to hands and knees, curl the toes under. Let's find our way into Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog, our first one here today. So let's take a little time to walk it out, not necessarily worrying about our form. We're just exploring here a little bit, pedaling the feet, shifting through the hips, moving through the spine. You can even circle the head. And then eventually coming out of that, coming down to hands and knees, and exhaling into a child's. Come back up to hands and knees. And if you don't normally do this, give this a try. I'd like you to bring your hands as wide as your mat. And so my pinky, the tip of my pinky, is all the way to the edge of my mat. Your wrist, the crease of your wrist is parallel with the front of your mat. Okay, so it may be a bit wider than most of you take. Okay, and then from here, rotate the inner crease of your elbow to the front of your mat. Okay, so we're really outer spiraling the shoulders, so we broaden the shoulders, we open the heart here. Oftentimes down dog ends up with hunched shoulders in the ears. So start with that widening of the chest, open the heart, curl the toes under. We're going to keep the knees very bent here. So lead with the tailbone, but keep the knees really bent. Press back, keeping those shoulders wide. And just feel that for a moment. Take the tailbone way up into the sky, like you're trying to create a back bend. That anterior tip. Okay? And then come back down. And release into a child's pose. Keep the hands wide. And then come up again. We're going to play with that again, keeping the hands wide. Rotate the front of the elbows, the crease of the elbows rather, to the front of your mat. Shoulders broad. Knees stay bent. Lead with the tailbone up to the sky. Keep that anterior tip of the pelvis. So we're lengthening the spine. So the whole emphasis here has nothing to do with how straight the legs are. Okay, especially for those of you with tight hamstrings, this is going to take the hamstrings out of this and enable you to really find not only the long spine, but a sense that the heart is softening and moving towards the thighs. Then from there, if you can maintain that, you can begin to straighten the legs. Really pay attention what's going on in the low back. So if you start to compensate by moving into a posterior tilt, then we need to bend the knees again. Inhale back to the knees, and hopefully you were all breathing continuously there. Exhale back into a child's pose. Pause here, let the arms relax. And then inhale back up. So let's find our way into our mini flow, and really what I'm going to invite you to do on your mats is just to play here a little bit with that anterior tip of the pelvis throughout the movement. So just notice what it feels like to really shift and move in that posterior anterior tip as you move in and out of this mini flow, right? So inhaling to knees, we inhale here, we exhale back into child's pose. We inhale back to knees, and then here again we play. Do you want to move back into your child's pose from an anterior tilt or posterior tilt? Okay, so in child's pose, either way is fine. Truly, you can, whichever way feels better for you, that's totally fine. I am going to encourage you, though, to maintain that anterior tip of the pelvis when you're in down dog so that we continue to lengthen the spine. And then we inhale to knees neutral, and then you decide posterior or anterior tilt as you draw back into child's. The next time you find your way into a child's pose, pause. We'll come together here. Take a few breaths and feel the echo of the practice. Come back up to hands and knees, and then we're going to go ahead and lower onto the belly. So to begin with, go ahead and extend the arms out in front of you. We're placing the forehead in the floor. Okay, and we're just going to do very simple alternate arm and leg lift. So, and we're going to do the opposite side. So we lift the right arm, left leg, and we only bring them a few inches off the floor. We're working and strengthening through the back body, okay? And we lift the head, but we look straight down to the floor. So we don't want to pick the head up and look at the screen, okay? So try to follow my instructions by just verbal, because we want to keep the neck extended. Go ahead and lower that down. Left arm, right leg. Pause, just take a few breaths here. Feel the back body working all the way from the hamstring to the glute and all the way up through the back and back down. So now notice what you feel in your low back. Okay, so really pay attention to what you're feeling in your low back there. And because when we lie on our belly, we're already in a slight anterior tilt of the pelvis. We're already in a slight back bend here. And when we lift up, any poses that we do here is going to come into more of a back bend, okay? And so where we want to start is actually with a slight posterior tip of the pelvis. So draw the navel to the spine and then ever so slightly tuck the tailbone. Okay, it's not exaggeration. I'm not trying to really, do this aggressively. It's just a slight tip of the pelvis. Keep the core strong, and now try the movement again. Right arm, left leg, and lower back down. Left arm, right leg. Keep that core engaged, slight tip of the pelvis. Feel the difference, and then back down. So keep that engagement, and you're going to move alternating sides. Inhaling, lift, and exhaling, lower. Now when you've gone to both sides, go ahead and rest your head on your hands. Bend the knees, and then just sway side to side. It's a nice little release for the back. And hopefully it feels safe. Okay, so we're gonna spend a little time here working our way into some other back bends, and you really need to decide what's serving you today. Okay, so that was just wonderful little simple back strengthener, ever so slightly of a back bend, and maybe that's where you need to stay. And then extend the legs back along the floor again. And this time bring the arms by your side, forehead in the floor. And go ahead and draw the shoulders up off the floor. So we're activating the upper back. Press the toenails into the floor. Feel the kneecaps lift. And then again, engagement of the core and a slight tucking of the tailbone. So we lengthen first, and then from here start to lift from the heart. You're lifting from the upper back. Heart lifts off the floor, front of the heart, anahata. Rotate the thumbs down, palms towards one another, and pause right here. And breathe. We're looking straight down. Keep the neck long, breath flowing, core is engaged. Really feel the upper back creating the lift. And then lower back down. Let the shoulders round and rotate the head to one side. Breathe into the back of the heart. And then if it would feel good, you can bend the knees here and sway side to side. That would feel nice on your back. And then extend the legs back along the floor, toenails on the floor, forehead to the floor. Here we go again. We're going to do this again, but now we'll have another option with the arms. Shoulders come up off the floor. Engage the upper back. Press into the toenails. Feel the kneecaps leave the floor. Engage the core. Slightly tuck the tail and lift from the heart. Upper back is doing the lift. The arms start to lift. Palms face one another, thumbs down. Here we are again. Now you can stay here, or if you'd like to, interlace the hands. Open the shoulders even more. Breathe. Take one more breath here. And then release. Turn your head in the opposite direction. Let the shoulders round. Maybe pick the feet up off the floor, or bend the knees and sway side to side if you'd like to. You can even crisscross them. And then go ahead and extend the legs out along the floor, recenter your head, place your hands underneath your shoulders. Use your core to press up to hands and knees. And then find a down dog. So if you like the hands a little bit wider, if that helped you open the shoulders a bit more, go back to that. Draw back, maybe walk it out a little bit. Either from down dog or from hands and knees, whichever you prefer. We're going to step our right foot up to the front of the mat and bring the left knee down. If you would like to use blocks on either side of the right foot, go ahead and grab those. We'll do our common lunge rock here for a moment, and then we'll bring some attention to what's going on through the heart and the low back. Okay. So to begin, let's do our lunge rock. We inhale here. Feel the shoulders draw back, the heart open, right? The heart is facing forward. And then we draw back and we fold inward, right? So it's an outer expression as we come forward and we draw in as we draw back. Okay, so we inhale here, heart lifts and opens. Notice what's going on also in the pelvis. And then exhale, we draw back and we start to tuck the pelvis under, right? So there's a bit of a posterior tilt here just for now. And then reverse and anterior tip of the pelvis opens the heart. And exhale, posterior tilt kind of closes it a bit. The next time you come forward, let's pause here and bring the hands to your thigh. Okay, so we're just in our low lunge. Notice what's going on. We want the pelvis fairly neutral here for now. Okay, so if you're tucking under here, can you reverse that? Or if you're just dropping in and maybe you have a more of a hyperextension in the low back, can you find more of a neutral, which really means engaging through the core, feeling the spine lengthen up, right? And then finding that neutral rocking of the pelvis. And then from there, if you want to drop into the hip flexor, you can, or you can stay more neutral with this. And then we're going to find the expression in our upper body here. One way is to bring one palm on top of the other by the heart and breathe here. For some of you, it may be interlacing the hands like we just did in our bellies and be here and open the heart here. So notice where you are within your heart chakra this morning. And if you're feeling vulnerable, you may want to keep the hands close to the heart. If you're wanting to expand, you may want to be here. And then any other expression you choose is fine. Whatever you're choosing, pause here with the breath. And then slowly release. Remove the blocks. Press back into down dog and really play with that tilt of the pelvis all the way back. So even from here, we can slowly step the feet back, bend the knees significantly, take the tailbone up, feel the heart move towards the thighs, that anterior tip of the pelvis, and then slowly begin to straighten out maybe, and that may not be possible for you. And then either again from down dog or from hands and knees. Left foot steps forward. Right knee down. Blocks if you choose. Low lunge on the other side. Let's start with our lunge rock. Inhaling as the heart lifts and opens. Exhaling as we draw back. The heart is leading. And just notice what follows in the lumbar spine as we move forward and back. That tip of the pelvis and how it affects other parts of the body. Find a neutral position. Hands to your thigh. And then here we go again. Here on this side, you decide the expression of your upper body. Another option, open the arms wide and begin to lift the sternum, opening the heart out. Gaze up to the ceiling. That's too intense or too vulnerable, we can come here. And then of course, interlacing the hands behind us is a nice in-between. On your exhale, let's release. Remove the blocks. press back into that down dog. Continue to play in that pelvic tilt. And then let's walk our feet forward to our hands. Find your way into a standing forward fold. Drape the spine over the thighs. Bend the knees if you need to. So the hands can comfortably make it to the floor. There's just a gentle stretch in the back of the legs. Hands to your hips. Bend the knees generously. Lengthen the spine as you lift from the heart, right? The back of the heart lifts you up. Engage the core as you come to standing. All right, so I'm going to stay sideways to you as we play here. So I don't have a huge range of motion in my pelvic tilt. I do some limited range of motion in my low back, so it's hard to see. But even from standing, knees soft, really feel this posterior tilt, can do that really well. Tuck under, we lose that curve in our lumbar spine, right? We flatten the back out. It's the same thing as we flatten it on the floor. Reverse that, and we find that anterior tip of the pelvis. So you think about the top of the pelvis dumping forward, creating that bit of a back bend. And then the top of the pelvis drops or moves to the back of the body. It causes that posterior tilt. Okay, so just a few rounds here. Start to feel that, connect into that range of motion here. Because we are playing with this more than we realize as we come into a forward fold. Okay, so now find neutral, right? So which means there is a gentle curve here. Okay, and from here, start to reach back with the tailbone in that anterior tip of the pelvis. We're dumping the pelvis forward like a back bend, bringing the heart forward to move our way into a forward fold. So oftentimes what I see is people collapse here to move into the fold, right? And we want to actually do the opposite. We want to lengthen out in that anterior tilt, reach forward with the heart, and this is what enables us to move forward from the hip flexors as opposed to the waist. Right? So we lengthen forward, keep reaching back with that tailbone, core is engaged, reach, 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 and then eventually that pelvis is going to start to move into that posterior tilt as we come forward. But there's a lengthening that occurred. You may find that you had to bend your knees a little bit more. Right? And it's the same thing we experienced in child's pose when we played with that. It's the same thing we experience in a seated pose. It's that lengthening of that hamstring attachment in the glutes, the same thing we were doing in down dog. Right? Arms by your side, reach behind you, draw the shoulder blades onto the back, engage the core, lengthen the spine, lift from the back of the heart as you come up, and then just find neutral. So this is a really important concept to get throughout our practice to really think about this, okay? All right, so from here, find that one more time. Anterior tip of the pelvis, take the front of the hip bones forward. Keep lengthening that tailbone back, heart reaches, spine neutral, folding at the hip flexor. Hamstrings start to kick in rather than rounding. Bend the knees. Keep that length in the spine and just start to bend the knees. All the way forward. And this is a nice time to also use a block if it's handy. You're welcome to have the hands come to a block. And even if you're not coming all the way into a forward fold, say you're only coming halfway, everything still applies exactly the same. You're just not going as far. Okay? Arms by your side, reach behind you, shoulder blades onto the back. Lengthen, lift, core is strong as you come all the way back up. All right? So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to step our left foot back. And let's play with this a little bit in a couple of standing poses. So believe it or not, we're actually doing a little bit of back bending throughout all of this, and I'm warming us up to do one back bend towards the end that we'll choose. So warrior two, my heart's open to the long side of my mat, right? And really notice what happens in this pose with our pelvis. So right now my pelvis is neutral, okay? So I'm not tucking under. And if you tuck under, you can play with this. You're going to feel a lot of pressure go into the left hip flexor. If I come back into that anterior tilt, which I'm not very good at, but you can do that and you'll start to feel a compression in the right hip flexor. You might even notice, like for me to do that, I notice I collapse into the inner arch of my right foot, my knee drops in. So notice on your body, as you do this, what's happening, what's following that motion, right? What other parts of the body are engaging with that? And just notice that in your body, okay? So come back to neutral. The spine stays upright, okay? So we're not leaning at all, okay? So we stay tall. So all I'm doing is bending my right knee, right? My spine stays tall. I'm not shifting in my hips at all. My pelvis is neutral. My pelvis is not shifting forward to back. So we find that foundation from standing, and everything from the waist up, from the hips up, nothing changes. The knee just simply bends. Okay, and how deeply you bend into it, that's up to you. Then spine stays tall, core engaged, neutral pelvis, arms lift up, shoulder height, palms down. Shift the gaze to the right fingertips. And breathe into this warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. And then slowly come up, release the arms. Rotate the right toes so now the feet are parallel. And if you need to shift so you can see me, that's fine. But I'm in a straddle. Okay. And then I'm going to rotate my left toes now, which was the back of my mat. Make sure my right foot's 90 degree or less. Right. Again, now on this side, it's like we're a whole new person when we switch sides, so be willing to play here. And notice what happens if you tuck the tailbone under and feel the right hip flexion, the pressure there, or going all the way back and maybe feeling the compression in the left or the dropping, whatever it is you notice, right? Just playing with that pelvis front to back or posterior anterior tilt, and notice how much else in the body follows that movement. Find neutral. Spine is tall. Core is engaged. All we're doing is bending into the front knee. The pelvis up, nothing else changed. Right. Spine stays upright. Let the arms float up, shoulder height, palms down. And then shift the gaze over the left fingertips. Virabhadrasana 2. And breathe here. So we move into our lives with courage, strength, compassion, open hearts, and all of the warrior poses, many of the standing poses are around that energy. Come back up or straighten that front knee, release the arms, find your straddle. So I'm going to grab a block here, you may want one too, from our straddle. We're going to place it out in front of us. You don't have to, if you don't have one or don't want to use one, you don't have to. And I'm in a straddle here. We're going to find this whole forward folding from an anterior tilt one more time. My feet are parallel. My toes are even ever so slightly tucked in, which broadens my sacral area. Okay. Hands on your hips. Engage the core. Anteriorly tip the pelvis. So lead by sticking the butt out. Take the tailbone back, right? And then I'm folding at my hip flexor just like I did in my standing forward fold. And I'm leading with a long spine with my heart in that anterior tip of the pelvis. I'm going to have to bend my knees a little bit sooner. And the block's out in front of me for my hands to come to. And I'm going to bring it so it's more or less directly underneath my shoulders. Keep the core strong, keep the breath flowing, the spine extended, and just feel the stretch here. And here you can play with this so you can feel the difference. Tuck your tailbone under, let the spine round, and feel the hamstrings release. So you can really see that connection or feel that connection, and then reverse that, find that anterior tip of the pelvis, take the tailbone back like you're trying to create a back bend, and feel the whole stretch down the entire leg. We want that. We want to feel this lengthening so that we're not compressing. And then you can decide if you want to lower the block. Or maybe it feels nice to stay lifted a little bit today. Take about 3 to 4 more breaths here. Continue to draw that tailbone back. Core is strong, breath is flowing. Where are your shoulders? Keep them away from the ears, heart open. And then go ahead and bend your knees quite generously. Use your core, bring your hands to your hips, and stand up. All right, go ahead and find your way to the front of your mat. Arms by your side. So we're going to find this flow and really pay attention to the pelvis throughout the whole movement, what's going on here, okay? So as we inhale, we reach up, find that anterior tip of the pelvis, exhale, open wide, lead with the heart, spine long, core strong. All the way down into that extended forward fold. Walk both feet back, come into down dog. Do you want to take the hands wide again? Is that something you liked? Want to feel again? Bend the knees, take the tailbone way up, soften the heart towards the thighs, lengthen that spine. And then inhale, bring the knees down to the floor, to your mat. Exhale, back into a child's. Breathe into the back body here and just feel the low back and what's going on with how we've been playing with that today. And then come on up to hands and knees. We're going to find our way onto our bellies again. So now we're going to work a little more into a little bit more of a deeper back bend. If you choose, you don't have to. Go ahead and extend out along the floor. And the first thing we're going to do is to bring the hands by the shoulders right underneath the shoulders, press the palms, draw the shoulders up and back, hug the elbows close to the side body, press into the tops of the feet, engage the core to bring the belly away from the floor and slightly tuck the tailbone. From there, we're going to come halfway up. So we are going to press into our hands, but we're just coming halfway. We're not pressing up into a full up dog here yet. Feel the upper back work. Feel my toes cramping. And slowly release. Bring your head to your hands. Bend the knees and sway side to side. Just noticing how your low back is feeling. We're going to come into the option of a couple of deeper back bends, which may not be right for you today. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead, if you want to move into a deeper back bend, and yet I'm also going to emphasize that this is as much about lengthening the spine as it is a back bend, okay, our up dog is. So placing your hands behind the shoulders down by the rib cage. The shoulders lift up off the floor onto the back body. As we press the hands down into the floor, we're also taking them and pulling them back, which brings the heart forward, right? And we come up here. So I'm not just simply dropping my hip bones into the floor. Now I'm crunching my low back. I actually find that engagement of the core, just like we've been playing with, and a slight tucking of the tailbone. So I'm lengthening this out. And then you can press into the tops of the feet and bring the knees off the floor if you want. From here, come up to hands and knees, and then find a little cat-cow. And then we'll go ahead and find a child's pose again. So draw back into the opposite pose. All right, so let's go ahead and come on up. One more back bend here, and then we're going to come into our releases. And we're going to do so from the knees. So I'm going to show a lot of options here to keep everyone safe in their backs. However, if being on your knees is not something you like, you can come back to your belly and do some of those other back bends we just did, okay? We're going to do camel pose. I forget the Sanskrit. But I'm going to take my blocks. If you have blocks, if you don't have them, it's okay. You can curl the toes under and bring the heels up off the floor, right? That gives you something sooner to reach for, or your heels, or the blocks even more so. Okay, so my blocks are slightly higher than my heels, although not much because I have pretty big feet. And then we're going to work into camel pose here. But what I want to do is, again, find this understanding of the pelvis. So if I have an anterior tip of the pelvis to begin with, and then move into this pose from here, I'm crunching in my low back. It's really uncomfortable. So what we want to do is actually find that posterior tip of the pelvis. Don't overdo it, but we do want to tuck under, draw the navel up and back. Okay, and start to lift through the sternum. So we're lifting through the heart, and then slightly tuck the tail and lift the heart. Slightly tuck the tail, lift the heart. So you're working your way into this back bend. Maybe the fingertips can find the blocks. Maybe you just stay right here. Draw the elbows back. Keep that lift and tuck. Lift the heart, tuck the tail, and stay right here. And notice the hip bones. Notice my hip bones are staying aligned over my knees. We're not drawing back here, right? This is a nice one to do like up against the wall, and we would keep our thighs connected to the wall as you draw back. So just do the best you can with that. So this might be your pose right here. And then if you can reach the block. I can't move as deeply into this pose as some people can. I know that, it's not for my body. But right here I feel safe. And then I can, same thing with the chin now, slightly tuck the chin and bring the gaze up to the ceiling. So I'm not dropping back and compressing my neck. I'm gonna tuck and open. And slowly find your way back up. Come to hands and knees. Walk that out in down dog. And then take a child's pose.
Just feel the echo of the practice and the choices that you made for yourself this morning. Notice the areas of the body that felt this the most for you. Notice whether you took care of yourself and really listened and didn't push beyond where the body wanted to go today. And then come on up and let's go ahead and roll onto your backs. Have a block with you. And we'll place the block at its flattest level, directly underneath us in our tailbone. Draw the shoulder blades underneath, or shoulders underneath you so the heart opens. Just a restorative bridge pose. You can keep the feet on the floor, knees bent, or bring them off the floor. And then notice where the upper body would like to rest. Your palms could be on your belly. You can open them wide. You can even bring them overhead if you want to. Bring your attention back to the heart. And feel the heart breathing. Long, smooth, even breaths. about 4 to 5 more breaths here. And at the completion of those breaths, remove the block. Take a moment with the spine in neutral on the floor. And then let's find our way back into our double knee drop again. So feet opening up as wide as your mat. Open the arms from the shoulders, palms up, and exhale, release to one side, both knees. Inhale, open wide, and exhale to the other side. And then again, if you'd like to get the head involved, feel free to rotate it in the opposite direction the knees go. So we did this to warm up and discover what was going on today when we began, and now we get to use this as a way to release and prepare for Shavasana. When you've gone equally side to side, we'll bring the knees to neutral and hug them into the chest. A little Apanasana. Knee circles. And maybe knees wide. And from here, go ahead and find your position for Shavasana this morning. And if you want to use any props like a blanket or bolster underneath the knees or something underneath your head or on you, as you settle in, we bring the arms out away from our side, palms up. And I'm going to share a guided meditation around the heart chakra this morning with you. And this comes from a book by Anadea Judith. And as you settle back, just feel the heart breathing throughout this practice, throughout this meditation. On passion's waves, our spirit sparked, and down we came into our mother's matter. A pull of love calling us deep into the earth. As deep into the mother, father pushed. Deep into the womb we crawled, the warm, dark womb of earth and water, the womb of love, safe, dark, cradled, quiet, we grew. In the dark, there was but one sound, the sound of life, the sound of love, the sound of the heart beating, beating, beating.
Hear it now in your own heart, its rhythms pumping life and air and breath through every part of you, renewing you, bathing you in air, in space, in breath, in life. Feel it now at the core of you. Embrace it with your hands. Feel it yearning, crying, loving, hoping, healing. Feel it within you, old as you are, beating since the days from deep in the womb. Feel how long it's been there. Always beating, never stopping. Always beating, never stopping. Do you love that heart? Breathe in deeply, drawing in the air as softness, depth, and wisdom. As you breathe, spirit comes within your heart and touches you, moving you, changing you. Deeply you accept as thirstily as you drink. Be thankful for this vessel that receives. Faster now, on waves of flame, we fling with joy up to the sky, above the earth, the water, beyond the fire, into the air. We reach and spread our wings and fly, free to ride the winds, but soon get tossed about and cry. Where is the heart? Where is my home? We listen for the beat and fly deep unto its sound. We reach for ground, slowing down. We still ourselves to listen deeper, quiet in the sound. Gently we reach, for the heart is tender. Softly we touch, for the heart is afraid. We open our hands to the love inside, to unite, to touch, to heal. Offer that love now. Ask for entry into your own heart. Listen deeply and hear inside a silent sound. Anahata, anahata, anahata. Listen deep and breathe into the sound, the breath, the winds of healing in and out, in and out. Inhaling that which is new, exhaling the old, each breath renewing. Each breath a wind within you and around you, storm of life, winds of change. For what does your heart cry? For what does it long? In what does it find peace? Release its hopes and dreams to fly upon the wings of change and then return on the wings of love, fulfilled beyond your dreams. You are not alone. Your cries are echoed in 1,000 hearts the same. If you listen, you can hear them beating. Deep within each person, find the heart. Everywhere around you, find the heart. Deep within ourselves, we find the heart. Every time we touch the heart. Within each one is love, awaiting sweet unfoldment. Release that love upon the winds of breath and reach beyond. Touch the hearts inside the ones you love. And listen to their breath that whistles in and out, in and out. Like you, they laugh and cry and play,
ceaseless rhythm through each day. Feel the heart so like your own, hoping, healing, breathing, feeling. Let there be no sound of striking, only that of love and liking. Each unto the dance of love that joins the earth to worlds above, and joins ourselves unto each other, each one seen as sister, brother. Within our hearts the seeds of peace lie awaiting sweet release. Upon the winds of change they fly, as deep within our hearts we cry, Anahata, Anahata, the sound of love. Begin to deepen the breath. Create some gentle movement in the body. Within the next few breaths, roll to one side, pausing there for just a few breaths. And then finding your way to seated, bring your palms together at your hearts. Take a moment to honor and recognize this time of self-care. You chose to be here today for you. Filling our own cups, we can move out into the world now to give back. Thank you for allowing me to take the seat of teacher this morning. Namaste.